prioritizing our well-beings, when we do that, when we like our mental and our physical and our financial well-beings, then we can actually show up for our horses more.
You love your horse, but your bank account, not so much. Money in the horse world is emotional, overwhelming, and rarely talked about. Most of us were never taught how to manage it, especially with horses in the mix. That's why today's guest, equestrian finance coach Mary Hurston, is here to help riders feel empowered around money, without shame, spreadsheets, or giving up the horse life they love. In this No Stupid Questions episode, we take on listener asks like, how much of your income should go to horses? Whether insurance is worth it? If you can write off horse expenses? What showing actually costs? And how to plan for big goals without going broke. If money has ever felt like the hardest part of horse life, this episode is for you.
Dear Horse World, it's Mary Hurston McCants.
Mary Hurston, welcome to the Dear Horse World podcast.
Noëlle, I am so hyped to be here.
So I'm super excited that you're in the studio today. You got introduced to me through Chelsea Kennedy.
Indeed.
Do you want to share with everyone who's listening or watching how you know Chelsea?
It's because of you.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I don't know if you know that.
I don't know that.
Yeah, it's because of you. A few years ago, I read Tick's book, Dick Maynard's book.
Yeah.
And then I looked him up on podcasts and heard your podcast. And then I heard Chelsea's podcast. And then I got on the platform and took Chelsea's course.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. Her masterclass.
Oh.
And I was like, wow, this woman knows what's up. And I want to learn from her. And so I sent her an email and basically told her that. And then came down to Florida to train with her. And it's been a few years now. And I'm back down in Florida with her and still training with her. And so really coming full circle sitting here with you.
Oh my gosh. I had no idea asking that question. I thought you were going to be like, oh, you know, we know each other through, I don't know, we met at a horse show or something like that. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm a little speechless. That's really
gosh.
awesome. I love those full circle moments in the horse world. They really make me happy.
Me too.
So why don't you share with everyone what you do?
Okay. So I am a coach and a budgeting nerd who is on a mission to teach equestrians how to manage their daily finances without fear and shame so that they can be financially resourced and pour their genius back into the horse world.
Okay. So first of all, amazing. Second of all, what do you say to everyone who's listening going, like money and budgeting and the horse world kind of don't go hand in hand? What would you say to them?
Oh, yeah. Like, because you're saying because the horse world is so expensive.
Yes.
Yes. And I would say, like, it is expensive for sure. And for me, that's why budgeting is so important. And when I say budgeting, I don't mean like being restrictive or being frugal. I mean being realistic about what your expenses are and orienting around what do you want and what do you want to do to get what you want.
Ooh. Okay. So when you get a new client, of which, and I think Chelsea would be okay to say, like, you actually work with Chelsea. You've actually worked with her in your field. So she's not just your trainer, but she said to me, like, you changed her life when it came to budgeting and management of finances, which is so cool.
Yeah.
So you obviously, and like the feeling I got when I talked to Chelsea about your work was that she was like, she just seemed really empowered. So do you believe that people can feel really empowered around their finances when they maybe apply some of the tools that you're going to talk about today?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that is, like I want to own that empowerment and spread that to people. So
when you get a new client, what is the first thing that you tell them?
Okay. The first thing I ask them is, how do you currently feel about money? And most people say like really overwhelmed, really anxious. I'll get really worked up about it, and then I'll want to be avoidant. And people often have a lot of story around money. And so like I give them space to feel that. And without judgment, like there's so much shame around money, and that's totally not my modality. And then I ask them, how do you want to feel? And people want to feel, like you're saying, they want to feel empowered. They don't want to feel frustrated. They want to understand what's going on so that they can make decisions, and they're not like constantly stressed out about how am I going to pay my bills.
Yeah. Okay, so for everyone who's listening or watching, I know I want to ask you this question because I think growing up in the horse world, we all develop, I feel like horse people develop a particularly special relationship with money. I know that I grew up being made very aware of the fact that my chosen passion and hobby and what became my career is representative of like a lifestyle and a sport that is like way more expensive than anything else that I could do besides maybe yachting.
Yeah.
And I grew up from a very young age, for better or for worse. I know my parents were very communicative about that. And how much more how much more horses and my chosen sport costs compared to others that I could do.
Yeah.
So like, I'm really interested in hearing some of the things that people share with you. Obviously, we're not going to name any names, but like, what are some of the things that, just so that everyone who's listening, including myself, can maybe feel a little bit like we're not alone in some of the stories that we have about money?
Oh my gosh, you're not alone. You have a huge community of people who are also going through what you're going through about, or anyone who's going through like, wow, this is really expensive.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if this is how you're feeling, but like, I'm really overwhelmed about this, or maybe I feel guilty about this. Like, wow, I'm really putting a lot of money into this thing.
Yeah.
And like, gosh, like I was saying, there's so much shame around money. And I think that's because money is so tied to security and like having enough and being enough, and sometimes even tied to morality. And I don't buy into those misunderstandings.
Cool.
Yeah.
So when you first like initially start working with clients, what are some of the stories that they tell themselves about the money that they spend on their horses?
Oh, I'm always going to be broke. I'm dumb for not being able to manage my money, or I don't have time to do this, or yeah. And it's like, no, that's not it at all. Like you're not dumb, like you're not stupid, you're not lazy. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. And then what's this next thing that you do because it sounds really cool that you seem to identify the emotions around money.
Yeah.
Why is that so important?
Because like I was saying, there's so much story around money. And often because we have that story, we're avoidant. We're avoidant of looking at it. We're avoidant of making a plan because that story feels really scary.
Yeah.
It's like a dark room maybe that you're in, and you're like, ooh, I don't want to turn on the lights. And I don't know if you've ever been.
Great analogy. I think like I for one, I've definitely moved through the world knowing and being very aware, and sometimes often very self-conscious of how much money my horses, my choices, even different opportunities I've had with my horses or in my riding. But then just like always that, like you said, like it's like a dark room with light you don't want to turn on. You're just like, and there's a real avoidant aspect of it. And when I talk to so many friends and I talk to so many people in the industry, it's like a thing they just don't want to look at.
Totally. And, even not related to money, like I can totally empathize with, or maybe you can too, about like, I like don't want to feel that feeling. So I'm not even gonna look at it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Totally.
So what are some of the first steps before we dive in? So by the way, everyone who's listening, this is a No Stupid Questions episode, which means that members of our community and members of the NF Plus membership have sent in questions that they wanted to ask Mary Hurston about financial management and budgeting. as horse owners. And so I know that this is this has been a very requested episode.
Oh my gosh.
This is a very exciting episode, I think, for everyone in the community, because it's something that doesn't get talked a lot about.
Okay.
And I think I think one of the most important things to sort of I'm going to name is the horse industry as a whole is expensive, and it's getting more expensive, right? Just the general economy of things are costing more than they've ever costed. There's also more opportunities. There's more modalities that are available to our horses. So our dollar is getting spread in so many different directions. Right. The other thing is that the horse world also has such a wide diversity of socioeconomic backgrounds.
Totally.
It's not like, I would say maybe in polo, it's slightly less diverse. I would say polo is a little bit more concentrated in terms of wealth, just because the amount of horses that you need to have to participate in that sport kind of puts you maybe in a different socioeconomic demographic than others. But everyone who's listening, if you're a polo player and that's not true, obviously I totally respect that there are going to be polo players from all sorts of walks of life and backgrounds. But there's a lot of people who are just scraping by in the horse world. Like they're really just, they're hand in mouth, as they say. Like they're really just, I know there's a lot of people in the horse world that choose to own horses, not houses. That's a big one. They, there's a lot, and we're going to see some questions from the community talking about like realizing they spend more money on their horse or their horse's supplements than they maybe spend on their own food budgeting. So what are some of the first tips and piece of advice that you would give our listeners around money management as a horse owner?
Okay. I love this question. Okay. So just like in riding, there are basics and the foundation, everything really builds from there. For budgeting, the basics are understanding your true expenses. And that's once I start working with clients, we do a deep dive and create their budget based on their true expenses. So it's not just monthly expenses like board and lessons, but, every 3 years you need trailer tires. So let's put that in your budget, and it'll be a smaller monthly expense. And the dentist and the vet, and embracing those true expenses so that, the roller coaster of horse ownership.
Yes.
Yeah. It evens out a little bit. And when you do have those unexpected things come up, you're better prepared for them.
Wow. That seems so not obvious, but just like, you would take into account even the one-off costs that you're going to get every couple of years. But you're saying that you should budget and allocate for those when you look at your monthly costs.
Indeed. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So first myth buster, guys. Okay. What are some simple ways in which people can budget? Like how, if someone's like, because there are going to be people who are listening that maybe have never actually done a budget, or maybe they're fresh out of college.
Yeah.
So budgeting is something that, oddly enough, no one teaches us how to do. You don't learn it in university. You don't learn it in high school. This isn't like part of a course or a class or like our prerequisites for living adults. And yet maybe it should be. So what's the 101? What's like the full ABCs of budgeting?
Okay. So I use an app that I love, and I get all my clients on it, and I'm not sponsored by them, but I really love this app, and it's called YNAB, YNAB.
Okay.
And it is, dare I say, fun to use.
Yeah.
And really easy to use. And so, that's a great place to get started on that app. Embracing your true expenses. That's something that YNAB also teaches. And and so you're being realistic about like, okay, this is actually, an expense that I have. And then you're giving every dollar a job. So let's
cool.
Yeah, let's say you've got $2,000 in your bank account.
Yeah.
And you're looking at your budget and you're like, okay, I want to put XYZ for this, this, and this. You're taking that $2,000 and you're putting it in all of those categories. So it's really intentional.
I love the way you talk about money and budgeting. Like, I actually feel more enthusiastic about it just sitting with you here.
Oh my gosh.
Talking about it.
Oh my gosh. I think it's really fun. And I get so excited about it.
It must be really helpful too. I think you clearly come from a perspective that, knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
And you obviously working with, I feel like you must be like a nurse or a doctor. Like, all these aspects because you talk to so many people about money. And yet I can tell, I can see in your eyes that you're like, this is so simple and yet so elegant.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Maybe in a past life I was some sort of healthcare provider. Who knows?
Well, because I reference the healthcare providers because they know, like, when there's a first this sort of doctor-client privilege, like that person, but you also have to be quite vulnerable with with nurses and doctors because it's your health.
Totally.
Right? And I think a lot of people listening would compare money to like vulnerability, like sitting down with someone and being like, okay, this is my money, this is all the things that I spend my money on. I would imagine, and I mean, I know I speak for myself, I feel like that's a very vulnerable topic for a lot of people.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I tell people, like, if your goal is to start like a gerbil racing empire and like have $1,000 left over at the end of the month to go to the casino, like, that's great. Like, it doesn't matter to me, like, what it is that you want, or, like that sort of thing. And gosh, I just feel so free of judgment. And I think that really creates that safe space for people to be vulnerable. Yeah.
So YNAB, which we'll include in the show notes, everybody.
Okay. Fabulous.
I know that I'm going to be checking this app out. So this is an app designed to make budgeting like really idiot proof and like easy to use.
Yeah.
And sounds like fun to use.
Yeah.
And why do you think that's important for all of us?
Especially for equestrians, because your days are so full already, and you probably don't have a ton of time. So you need a system that is really easy to maintain, like 2 or 3 minutes a day, kind of easy to maintain. Yeah.
So something that my fiance always wants me to do, and I'm not very good at, is like keeping receipts and tracking expenses. Why is that so important?
Yes. Okay. So I'll give an example. I was helping a client determine what she needs to charge for board. She was saying, like, gosh, I haven't gone up in 2 years, and it feels like every month I'm short every month. And so I pulled all of her data from YNAB, and we looked at her expenses over the course of the year and what she spent on staff and feed and hay. And so it's so important to have that information so you can say, like, oh, actually, what I need to be charging for board is XYZ based on my expenses.
I think a lot of horse people do a lot of napkin math or maybe math in our heads.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it would be really helpful or supportive for us to really sit down and like actually plug in, because it's different to even writing it on a piece of paper. Right. It's actually plugging it into an app or into an Excel spreadsheet where we can actually see how things, because I mean, we all know this, but like it adds up. Things really add up, like little things, you know? And I was like, oh, like that won't actually add up. But then when you look compounding over, over days and weeks and years, some expenses that, you might not think add up, but they do. Indeed.
And then also, especially in the horse world, having that map, that financial map for yourself. Because hold on, let me back up.
Yeah.
A lot of times people say, like, no 2 months look the same. Like, some months really high income and some months not.
Yeah.
And, like, there's no way that I can budget because I don't have a set amount every month. But those are actually the people who need a budget the most. So in those higher income months, you've got your categories. You can allocate your dollars, be really intentional about it in those higher income months to future months. So in those lower income months, it's okay. Like, you've got your bases covered because you're intentional about it.
Second myth busted.
Yeah.
That if you have a roller coaster of income on an annual basis, that you can't budget. You actually can. And you should. Or I don't like, I would say you should yourself, but you can.
Right.
And it would be an empowering step.
Yeah.
To do so.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're like, the system that I have, it works for me, like, great. Like, but if you're like, whoa, I'm like pretty anxious about this or overwhelmed or I want more clarity, then I would say budgeting is for you.
Cool. Okay. So Now we get to open the jar.
Okay.
We get to pull, and some of these episodes, I write the questions down on pieces of paper, which I have to read because no one can read my writing.
Okay.
But these are printed, so we can each take a turn. So you get to take your first one.
Okay. Okay. I've recently been working hard at a budget and tracking every penny. I have learned that I spend 4x on my horse's feed and meds than I do on my family's food, frowny face. How and where can I reduce these expenses while still taking care of my horses? So I'm going to answer this question like in a couple of different parts.
Great.
Okay. As long as everyone is fed and you're like, in a comfortable place with your finances, like, I don't think there's any shame in spending more money on your horse's food than your family's food. Like, especially if you have like 10 horses and maybe like 3 family members, that makes sense.
Or you live in a place, there's certain states of the United States, for example, that have really affordable food pricing compared to like if you live in California, the taxes on food are much higher. So the costs are much higher.
Totally. So, the shame aspect there of like, I'm spending more on my family's food than my horse's food. Like, it sounds like something that maybe you want to address, and maybe there's like a misunderstanding there. And then, but if you're like, ooh, like she was saying, like I do, or he or she was saying, like I want to spend less on my horse's food. Gosh, and I'm not an equine nutritionist. But that could be, a really good place to start with a pro and say like, hey, where can I get the most bang for my buck?
Yeah, or maybe like, I think she says, where and how can I reduce these expenses while still taking care of my horses? Well, first, I love that you basically said, well, you might not have to. Like maybe the emotion, which is something I wasn't expecting from this episode, was that a lot of the energy that exists around money sounds very emotional.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think even us just naming that feels really empowering.
Totally.
That actually you might, maybe just reframing a circumstance is the first step to feeling more empowered around your expenses with horses.
Totally. Totally. I think it goes back to the basics of budgeting is like really understanding your expenses. And then you get a clearer picture of like, okay, basically if your expenses are higher than your income, you can do 3 things. You can reduce your expenses, or really 2 things. You can reduce your expenses or bring in more income. And so once you get that clear picture, you can think like, okay, what do I really want? What do I want to do to get what I want? Like, do I want to reduce my expenses, or do I want to bring in more income, or a combination of both?
I'm going to add to that too for the awesome human that sent in that question.
Yeah.
Because I think that's also, I was having an amazing catch up with one of our masterclass instructors, Max Corcoran. He was like a world-renowned groom. And she talked a lot about, like we actually can over-supplement. Right? And that sometimes we're not always supplementing what our horses need. So I think there are a lot of tools for all us horse owners out there to actually be able to find out what our horse really truly needs from like to have a nutritionally balanced diet.
Yeah.
And make sure that all their needs are being met nutritionally. We might actually be overspending.
Yeah.
In a way that that it's actually not connected to horse welfare,
right?
But maybe more connected to like a lack of information, and I think that that's what's so beautiful about this day and age, is that we have access, we have ways, even free. There's free resources out there that you can get your horse's dietary needs measured, and you can actually get someone to tell you, okay, this is really what your horse needs for the level of activity that they have, for the environment that they're in. And I think that's really empowering also to know that maybe the spend there is potentially has an opportunity to be like remeasured.
Yes. Indeed.
Okay. I'm going to pick the next question.
Okay.
What do you think will be the biggest shift in the industry over the next 10 years? Remember the first time you found that feeling of deep connection with your horse? That moment when you knew that this was more than just a sport, more than just a hobby. It was a partnership. It was a way of life. But then things got complicated. Maybe it started with conflicting advice from trainers, or your own frustration of not making progress at the pace that you wanted. Or maybe you even started feeling afraid of your horse's behavior. Suddenly, that magic feeling, that deep connection, that started to slip away. I've been in your shoes, and I know that feeling. That is why I created NF Plus. I want every horse and rider to experience that profound connection that starts with education and a strong support system. At NF Plus, we are breaking down barriers, bringing you the best training, the most helpful advice, and a community that supports you at every step of your journey. With audio and video lessons on everything from horse care to groundwork to rider psychology, NF Plus is your key to unlocking the true potential of your partnership. It's not just about looking good in the saddle or winning ribbons. It's about rediscovering why you fell in love with horses in the first place. It's about becoming a better horse person, becoming someone who has the tools to achieve the goals and find that feel that all horsemen and horsewomen aspire to have. Whether you're an experienced competitor or just starting out, we have designed NF Plus specifically to support you. Join Noëlle Floyd Plus today and become part of a movement that puts your relationship with your horse at the heart of everything. Because when you ride with understanding and connection, the possibilities are literally endless. Sign up today at noellefloydplus.com. That's Noëlle Floyd, Plus.com.
What do you think will be the biggest shift in the industry over the next 10 years in terms of financial practices, i.e. more syndicates, multi-trainer barns, less showing for average riders, etc.?
Ooh, gosh. Let me get on my crystal ball here. I think as, prices rise, a couple of different things could happen. Maybe more people are like, oh, prices are rising. Let me actually look at this. Or prices are rising. I need to adapt how I'm involved in this sport, like this person was saying.
Yeah, and I think in some of the other episodes that we've recorded with guests, there is a talk a lot about sort of participation in horse competitions or horse shows, whether people are able to participate at the level that maybe their family members did in other generations, or the way that they could have when they were their kids, But I think that there's so many opportunities to live a fulfilling life or journey with your horse if you can't show as much as you wanted to,
right,
or maybe at all. I wonder whether that's going to be a part of the future, is that some of us or some people within the horse world choose not to or can't as much spend money on horse competitions, and whether that's maybe not as negative of a thing as some people might feel. That's sort of something that I've noticed in some of the conversations I've had of late.
Yeah. And I think what you're doing is making world-class education accessible to so many people. What an asset to the horse world for people at all different levels, economic levels, experience levels. And I think those resources, the resources that you're providing, are only going to get more valuable.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Mary Hurston. That's I think one of the things that I've learned on this journey is horse shows, for so many of us, especially those of us who showed a lot as juniors or young riders, horse competition offers so much. It really does. And it offers a feedback as to where you're at in your journey. And now there are so many ways in which we can achieve that, or source that feedback. We don't have to just get it from competition.
Right.
And I think that we definitely at NF Plus and in the Noëlle Floyd community, we're really trying to create opportunities and accessibility to get that feedback without maybe having to spend the money on horse competitions as the cost of everything goes up.
Right.
So I really appreciate that mention, because that's definitely part of, I think, everyone. There's so many people in the horse world that are trying to make things more accessible to everybody.
Indeed.
Okay, next question.
Okay. I'm a part-time professional who works for someone else as an assistant trainer. I've had a job outside of horses too and have no interest in running my own training business. However, I have contemplated starting an LLC to write off some of my personal horse expenses. Is it worth it? I need to put a disclaimer on this episode. I am not an accountant or a certified financial planner. So any sort of like retirement or tax question, I would have to say for this person, how I would answer that is talk to a couple of accountants and weigh a couple of different opinions to see if that is the best choice for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you say a couple. Why a couple?
To just sort of like get a pulse for what's out there. Like, this is a pretty big decision about, if you want to get an LLC. And so it's, I could just get a couple of opinions and see like which one feels like it's an integrity for me to do, like makes sense for my lifestyle.
Yeah, I love it. It's like there's a great piece of advice often says always seek a second opinion.
Yeah,
which I think applies to this area as well, right?
Indeed.
Okay, next question. What are your thoughts on horse insurance with surgical and full mortality? I have my horse insured for his value at time of purchase. His value has increased, but I haven't increased his insurer due to the premium. Should I increase it?
Okay. So I'm also not a horse insurer, but I personally have my horse insured with major medical and colic and all of that stuff. Yeah. So okay, you're thinking this person is wondering like, should I increase it?
Yeah.
Okay, I would answer that like, here's how I would answer that. And it would be like, go on a fact-finding mission to get the information you need to answer that question. First, talk to your insurance broker and get a quote and see what it is. And then it's also going back to that really understanding your expenses piece. So you're taking a good look at your expenses and you're thinking like, okay, if something happened to my horse, am I prepared for an emergency?
Ooh.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, do I have the minimum to meet my deductible? And then like some cushion in my emergency fund. And do I feel good about that? Like, do I have enough cash flow to handle emergencies like that? Do I want to increase the savings to my emergency fund for my horse instead of increasing my insurance policy? Do I want to do both of those things? If something were to happen to my horse and they were, retired or something like that, how quickly would I want to get back to the level where I was with my horse? And could I finance that, And so, and they
sounds like a lot of scenarios. Like you're basically sitting down and mapping out different scenarios that could happen.
Yeah. So you're collecting all of this information and maybe you're saying like, okay, yeah, if I increase my premium, like I can make that. Or like actually instead of increasing my premium, I would feel more comfortable having my own emergency fund or start setting aside my own fund for my next horse if something were to happen to my horse. Okay. What do you feel comfortable with?
What's an emergency fund?
Okay.
This is like, now we're going to dive deep.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there are a few people listening to this episode or watching this episode that are like, wait, what's an emergency fund? Because again, none of this, just saying to everyone who's listening and watching, no one teaches us anything about this.
Yeah.
So zero shame.
Totally.
Mary Hurston and I are both holding space for everyone and all the emotions because I've felt almost all of them.
Yeah, totally.
And I think there's a lot of shame that comes when someone says something and you're like, in your head, you're like, wait, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But no one teaches this stuff. So this is one, why we're doing an episode on it. And two, why it's okay that this is something that some people might not know about. So what's an emergency fund?
Okay. So an emergency fund would be money that you put aside for those unexpected things that come up. Maybe you get into a fender bender with your truck, or your horse develops an allergy and you weren't prepared for that.
Yeah.
Gosh, and Noëlle, I keep saying like going back to the basics, but when you understand your true expenses and you're putting money aside for those every month, you're going to have less emergencies, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. But it is so valuable to have that money set aside for those stressful situations that you have with your horse, to make them slightly less stressful so you can focus on your horse and not be worried about how am I going to pay for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As we have that saying, like, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
I think that's a very empowering, not easy always, but
Indeed.
really empowering step we can all make.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question.
How can equestrians give themselves permission to prioritize their financial well-being without feeling like they're letting their horses down? Oh my gosh. Wow.
Ooh. This is when the emotion of what
Totally.
comes up. There's so much emotion around financials and our horses.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And like, my heart goes out to the person who asked this question. Like, I totally feel you. Okay. How can equestrians give themselves permission to prioritize their own well? I'm going to give you permission right now. You all have permission to prioritize your financial well-being. And how I think about that is like, when you're resourced, like financially resourced, you can pour back into the world more. Or when you're resourced about anything, you know, it's like such a cliche, but the oxygen mask, like you can't, put on someone else's oxygen mask until you put on your oxygen mask. And so that would be how I answered the first part of the question. And then without feeling like you're letting your horse down. And my heart just like so goes out to this person. And Noëlle, I mean, you talk to so many fabulous people, and sometimes this comes up like, but our horses don't ever look at our bank account, and they don't care how much we make.
When I hear that question, I think the first thing that comes to mind is something that Carl Cook, one of our masterclass instructors, has spoken really openly about, which is first, like, spend money or value the things that actually really make a difference for your horse. So like he's very open about, you know, like your horse doesn't care about a new saddle pad.
Yeah.
Like spend your attention, not even money, but like prioritize your attention on the things that really have a big impact and are like in terms of list of priorities, where are the top of priorities. So like safety and well-being are really at the top of the list.
Yeah.
How you look, or whether you have, you know, like a fancy new trailer. Like if you've got a beat up, I know some really, really incredibly successful riders who have like 15-year-old trailers.
Yeah.
And they're looking at me going, Noëlle, it's perfectly fine. I don't have to get a new one. I think the horse world can be a bit, like a little bit distracted or a little bit prioritized with optics.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think we prioritize the wrong things. So that was the first thing that came to mind, is like friends, forage, and freedom. Those are the, like, to a lot of experts that I've spoken to, both in and out of the studio, those are the three basic, the basis of well-being for our horses.
Totally.
If horses have those three things, then a lot of their basic needs are met. I mean, and then this obviously, okay, and then like a disclaimer for that statement is like, if your horse has special medical needs or has certain physical or medical restrictions, like all of that has to be taken into account. But I think that our horses sometimes don't need as much as we think they need, or they need more, let's say, time or being versus doing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, do we spend all our money on going to a super expensive event or clinic? Could you read a book, and could you, instead of, I mean, and again, it's all about like what you're capable of doing, which is all comes down to knowing and understanding your expenses, which I'm starting to really hear in this episode, which is so empowering. But that's what I think when I think of, when I read that question, is really like, what is your definition of well-being for your horse? And are you prioritizing it in the way that you need to?
Prioritizing our well-beings, when we do that, when we like our mental and our physical and our financial well-beings, then we can actually show up for our horses more, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I think our horses do feel if we are financially stressed or we are trying, I certainly can think back on moments and experiences where I just put so much at stake for like the result of a clinic or a horse show, especially when I was young, like a young kid, like a young rider. You know, you felt the pressure and then you just weren't present. And by not being present, you weren't able to show up at all.
Yeah.
So it's not like the money was wasted, but it certainly was highly, highly compromised. So it does make me think now that I'm older and, so, you know, I hopefully wiser. I do think like, is it actually more effective or more supportive for our experience, especially also because we can do this for our whole life. It's not like we're able to ride in our 50s, 60s, and 70s. So if there are goals that you have, can you put, are you willing to wait for them when you're maybe more financially in a position to do that? But I think about those moments in which I felt stressed or I felt like my experience was compromised because I was distracted by the stakes or the pressure I was putting on myself.
Yeah. Okay. And this is, that makes me think of this, like, okay, when you're thinking about your goals and what you want, are you doing something because you think you need it for external validation or like for accomplishment or, something like that?
Yeah.
Or are you doing it because you're like, yeah, I really want this. You know what I mean? And when you're honest with yourself about why you're doing something, is it just because you want it or because like you think you need it so you can get that external validation? Then I think you can get more clear about what you want to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh. This is like, this episode is like part like deep dive philosophical, and spiritual, and also then part like accounting and finance.
Totally. Oh my gosh. And I'm so like energized by this. And something else he said made me think of this. And this is like when I'm thinking about budgeting and really when I think about everything in life. There's a fabulous author named Byron Katie. I don't know. Are you familiar with her?
Byron Katie.
Okay.
She's great.
She
shout out to Byron.
Seriously, she is so free and I just adore her. But she has a framework of there's like my business, other people's business, and then reality's business. So like, is it raining? That's reality's business.
Right.
Other people's business would be like, someone, whatever other people are doing. And I find when you get into other people's business or reality's business, like you're a lot less happy and satisfied. But when you're saying like in your business and in your integrity, you're a lot more satisfied.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, next question.
Okay.
Ooh, okay, I'm really interested to hear your answer to this. What is the maximum percentage of your monthly income that should be allocated to horses?
Ooh, okay. So I don't work with percentages, like the 50, 20, 30 rule. Yeah. I mean, I'm saying if that works for you, like totally go for it. But like where you live regionally and like how involved in the sport and, what your like other expenses are like vary so much. Like I couldn't put a percentage on that.
What do you see? Could you then give like do you have clients that spend like 10% and then you have other clients that might spend 50%? And I think that might be really empowering for as listening to understand that maybe choosing within a range might be helpful for them.
This is just like, I haven't, pulled the percentages for my clients, but, gosh, and honestly, even myself, it's like normally 50% or above. And like, I'm not ashamed of that. Like, this is what I want. And, my clients, like, they're like, oh my God, I spend so much on my horses. And it's like I'm not here to judge you. Like, that's okay. Like, that's what you want. And you're also like meeting the other responsibilities that you want, like housing and food and, your own healthcare and all of that stuff. Yeah. Do you think that answers that question?
I think that's a great answer.
Okay.
One, because I think it allows people, it's again the invitation to go inside, go internal and say, okay, what are my goals? What are my priorities? And then and I think what I love about this episode and what you're sharing with our listenership is first, empower yourself with what the reality is.
Yes.
And then know that on the other side of that is no judgment. It's not like, okay, here's the target and you're not meeting that. So you fail.
Yeah.
That in fact, what I love about this episode, Mary Hurston, is that what you're saying is that there isn't like a one size fits all for financial freedom or financial empowerment.
Yeah.
Because financial freedom to one horse person might look very different to the other.
Right.
So that's not actually about a specific answer to that question, but in fact, it's different to, okay, what are your goals?
Yes.
How much is that going to cost?
Yeah.
Is that achievable within the time frame that you've allocated? If not, okay, what can you do about it?
Yeah.
Like there's so much introspection.
Yeah.
Introspection? Yeah,
Yes.
it's a word.
Totally.
There is so much in in how you approach this, which I think is really cool.
Oh my gosh. And when we're not avoiding and we're actually getting the information about our finances, we have so much more clarity about all of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for those who are listening that go, okay, guys, that's great. After I do the introspection,
Yeah.
what are some more concrete or like what is a formula, even a base level formula that can be applied to my finances to sort of give me some financial wiggle room around some of the things that I might even want to have ambition around when it comes to my horses?
Yeah. Okay. So you're going to get the information. You're going to be looking at your expenses. Like if you use an app, you're just checking in every day. You're categorizing your transactions and what numbers do I put there? Like, where do I start? What categories do I need?
Yeah.
And I like to break it down, your horse expenses, into 2 different sections. So your monthly horse expenses, and you're thinking about like, okay, like board, lessons, supplement,
Farrier.
farrier.
Well, farrier is every 5 to 6 weeks, but
Yeah.
let's just say
Farrier, chiro, body work,
Mhm.
supplies. Did we already say supplements? Supplements.
Yeah.
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 Show fees if you're showing every month. Okay, so you're like thinking through those months.
Would you include gas to get to the barn in that?
So I include like everything in my budget, like all of my expenses and my horses' expenses.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's in there.
Yeah.
Transportation for sure, very important. Yeah. And then when I'm thinking, okay, so you've got your monthly horse expenses. And then I would sit down and think through your yearly horse expenses. So like your memberships to the USCF or the USEA and all of
Insurance.
this. Yes.
If you choose to insure your horse.
Right. Truck insurance, trailer insurance, trailer and truck registration.
It's clinics. Validation for clinics.
Yes.
You don't sleep in your trailer.
Yeah, totally. Trailer tires, truck tires, trailer maintenance. Like, you need to get your bearings packed every year.
Yes.
Yeah. Put that in your yearly. I put trailer tires in there. You only need them like every 3 years.
Yeah.
But
you could like split 3 ways, right?
Yeah. So you're like really like thinking through some of these bigger things. So when they happen, they're not that big of a deal. And the app that I use, if you say like, oh, my insurance is, $1,400 a year is due in November, it'll break it down for you and say like, okay, every month put away, $94 or whatever.
So cool.
Yeah. So it's not a specific like, oh, here's the hard number on what to spend on this, but here's the process to go through to get those hard numbers.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So people often ask, like, we get to the vet category and they're like, oh my God,
They'd already start sweating.
Yeah. Like, what happened in this category? I'm like, I hear you. I see you. And like for those big expenses and expenses that are going to be variable, I always say some is better than none. Like, you will be so glad that maybe you're like, I don't know how much my vet bill is going to be. You're going to be so glad that you put $500 aside. Like, let's say your bill is $900. You're going to be so glad that you have that $500 than $0 set aside.
Yeah.
So yeah, some is better than none. And I would start with, what do you know? Like, that your horse is going to get shots twice a year.
Yeah.
And maybe your dentist comes at the same time, or it's a separate thing. And so like, you're like, okay, I do know these things. And maybe your vet does some other procedures on your horse that every year. Like, okay, that. And then maybe you just like look back at a couple of like years prior and like, okay, yeah, I spent like, $2,000 or $3,000 at the vet. Like, let me just work towards setting that aside every year so that I'm ready for the vet visits that come up.
It really starts like listening to you in this episode, and then also aggregating all of the amazing conversations that we have in the studio makes me realize that it's actually in your financial best interest to prioritize your horse's health.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Highlight, underline, put it on a coffee mug. Yes, totally. Like, and like, it's what you're doing. Like, knowledge is power, baby. You know? Yeah. And I love how you're thinking about that. And that's like how I think about, my own horse's care. Like, my farrier bill is like, it's pretty expensive, but it's a priority for me because, like you're saying, like, I don't want something that I could have prevented to happen down the road, because there's so many things that we can't prevent that are going to happen. Let's mitigate the risk where we can. Yeah.
So don't just stand, and this was an amazing piece of it.
Oh my gosh.
Was don't just stand there and don't interact with your vet, or let alone if you can be there, because that you've got prime opportunity to extract information about your own personal horse and their health and ways that you can improve that horse's health. But you can also get knowledge, and like you said, knowledge is power. But also I think knowledge is also money saved.
Totally. And I think when we have enough safety within ourselves to be curious and not be like, oh, if I ask questions they'll think I'm dumb, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Be like, I'm here to soak it in. Like, I'm here to get this knowledge. What an investment in yourself, Well, and then your horse's health.
Yeah. And that's the inspiration behind this podcast. No Stupid Question.
Yeah, totally.
Is around the culture that you can ask any question and that it's not stupid. And I think everyone would agree that there's no question that hasn't ever been asked.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
If you're asking a question, I guarantee you there's at least one other person out there that has asked that question. So it's not stupid.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I, tying the knowledge and the finances and working with professionals, when I'm meeting with my saddle fitter, I'm asking them questions about is it worth it to do XYZ? Get this kind of, I don't know, assistant saddle pad or whatever,
a special pad for yourself. Is it worth it?
Or should I put my money into this XYZ, or really asking those questions about not just I'll get this piece of equipment because everyone is using it, but what is the value of this long term, and should I invest more in XYZ because it's going to have payoffs later? I mean, exactly what you're saying about the other elements, but also asking your professionals those questions.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. I think second to last question.
Okay. If you trailer other people's horses along with your own horse to a show and charge them, can you use your trailer as a tax write-off if you form an LLC? And I would say that is a fabulous question for an accountant.
Yeah. And I think that that's one of the big pieces of advice from this episode that we're giving everybody is if you have a question like that, that's worth asking an accountant. Sounds like it's worth all of us to have a good accountant on hand or a phone call away. So would you recommend for people in the horse world to spend the money on an accountant consultant, because that would cost money, right?
Right. The clients that I work with that have an accountant are so glad that they have an accountant when it's time to do their taxes. So I know, and if you're saving your accountant fee or you're putting aside money for your accountant fee, that's another expense for your business every month. When it's time to pay your accountant, it's not, doesn't feel like so much of a burden. Everyone that I work with that has an accountant is glad that they have an accountant.
Yeah. And do you think they're as expensive as people think?
Gosh.
What kind of average costs are you seeing when people spend money on their accountant on an annual basis?
Gosh. Yeah. For people with smaller businesses, it's $1,000 or less.
And annually.
Really small business situation. And then people with really big operations, it's a couple of $1,000. Yeah. It kind of varies on your business size.
Oh, that's great information though for people who are listening and thinking, okay, do I want to spend a couple $100s on even a consult with an accountant of is it worth me even having you?
Yeah. And honestly, I don't even know, you could just go talk to accountants and say can I talk to you and get your advice and see if we would be a good fit? And like, are you going to charge me for that? Or they may not even charge you to say, just ask them. Like, be curious and get multiple opinions.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask the question because there are no stupid questions.
Indeed.
Okay, so last question, and I'll be very interested to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay.
Insurance, worth it or not?
So personally for me, it is worth it. And my horse is insured.
Okay. My horse is also insured.
Yeah. And my horse had an injury, and I was really glad that he was insured. Gosh, it's really up to you if you're like being honest about your expenses and your income versus expenses. If it's worth it to you and what you plan to do with your horse. I'd say it doesn't hurt to talk to an insurance agent and just get a quote and see like, does this feel right for me? Like, does this align with what I can do financially?
Yes.
Yeah. And then also thinking about like, okay, if something did happen to my horse, do I have enough cash flow to handle those expenses?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'll speak from personal experience. I insure my horses, and it's because my first horse, who when my family was able to purchase me a horse, I was 16. So I was much older than I think a lot of my peers. And unfortunately, he passed. And when he passed, the only way that I would have been able to get a horse after him that became a hugely pivotal horse, both in my accomplishments and in my life.
Yeah.
My first horse, Sherman, was an incredibly impressionable horse for me as well. But if my family hadn't chose to insure him, we wouldn't have financially been able to purchase another horse after that. Right. And then for me to be able to pursue other like goals as a young rider. So I did have a really positive experience in terms of, and we weren't given any pushback. Like it was a very clean and transparent and actually like fairly supportive process.
Yeah.
And I do always mention that when someone asks me that question about insurance. I personally was affected by like the ability to insure a horse and then be able to see the effects of it in a devastating situation. And so, yeah, I know that now after that experience, that being my first horse experience, I feel really empowered to spend that money in that way. Also, I think insurance is not as expensive as some people think.
Yes, totally. So that's why I said, like, get a quote and see what it is. Because like you, like I think it is totally worth it, for sure.
What's advice? Do you have any advice about people who are looking to insure their horses or thinking maybe they have multiple horses? No, because that can also add up.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would advise your clients when looking at the cost of insuring? If you are spending money on insurance and you have an emergency fund, some people might feel like, well, that's a lot of horse shows, or that's a lot of, like,
yeah.
How would you advise them to think about that?
Yeah. So, like my advice would be, if you like insurance, hold on, let me start over. Okay, so I am, a fan of insurance, but that's of course a personal choice. And I'm going to say, like, if you have insurance, I also an emergency fund as well, because there are things that are not covered by insurance. You have your insurance deductible, or maybe it's not something directly related to your physical horse, but, something else. You need your emergency fund. Yeah. So both of those things. But someone's like, okay, should I insure all of my horses? I would get quotes from multiple insurance brokers, and I would talk to your friends about what broker they work with and what their experience was. You don't have to go at the first quote that you got. So yeah, get a couple quotes, and like maybe the cheapest one actually doesn't give you the most coverage.
Yeah.
So yeah, like we're saying, like be curious and like ask questions and see what really you're getting the biggest bang for your buck there.
Before we started recording, we talked a little bit about the question that a lot of horse people bring up, which is, do I have enough money to buy another horse?
Yeah, people ask me that, or Maybe they're hiring me because they want to get back into horses. They're like, I don't even know if I can afford this. I'm like,
Whoa.
let's talk about it. I love this question. Or can I get another horse? So,
can I get a horse or can I get another horse?
Right.
So where the heck do I start?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you're looking at your true expenses.
Yeah.
And what I like to do is let's have a few practice months where you pretend like you're having another horse and you're allocating money every month. You add those categories to your budget.
Yes.
You're allocating money every month to those additional horse expenses.
Yeah.
And you get a pulse for like, okay, am I feeling like really stretched thin or like, actually I can do this? And then after a few months, you have money saved up that you can put toward a new horse.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So do the test run to see what you got going on there.
Cool. That's actually, what would you call that? Like horse ownership test run. Like when would you do that? 1 month, 3 months?
Gosh, definitely more than 1 month. I would say minimum 3 months. I mean, maybe, there's no hard and fast rule, but minimum 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah, to really understand the expense.
That's amazing advice because that's something that you can do. Mm-hmm. And then you have that money set aside that if you're like, yeah, that felt good, then you're already in a more empowered place.
Totally.
Wow.
Totally.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Mary Hurston. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Oh my gosh. My pleasure. This has been fabulous.